Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Leppy Duels. I'm your host, Jacob Artson, and we are once again presented by Jarvie Media. It's week 11 this week. You guys know what that means. It's time to announce a winner for our first ever big money giveaway from last week's episode. All you had to do was subscribe to the channel and toss a comment down below with one of the panelists' names from last week's episode. A lot of you did it. Some of you voted for the winner, which was Brian Wolf Frawley. All you guys that did that, well, you got entered into this drawing. All your names are in here. We're gonna select one of you to win the stack of discs that we announced last week, and the winner is Zac P_DG. So congratulations, Zac. You're gonna be shipped out this beautiful stack of discs, highlighted, of course, by the crystal clear Trevor Harbolt signed Tour Series breaker from 2022. Gorgeous discs along with 4 other beautiful specimens. We'll get in contact with you, Zac, and ship those out to you ASAP. The rest of you that didn't win, you're here to watch the episode. So here's how the show works. In a moment, you're going to meet our 4 distinguished guests. Each of those guests will go 1v1 versus the other 3 contestants. Within each duel, each contestant will have 1 minute to deliver their points on the assigned debate topic, along with an additional 20 seconds to respond to their opponent's comments. After that, I, as the host, will determine a winner of each duel, and the first one to fill up their scoring bar wins the episode. Let's meet this week's panelists. First up, joining us for the first time ever, he's the owner of Crew 42, the post-production disc golf company, Zac O'Heran. Second up, joining us, another perennial power on Leppy Duels, a former champion himself, and the captain of Team Discraft Underground, Wes Shinevar. Third, a former winner, a former 2-time winner, a former 3-time winner here on Leppy Duels, the brand manager at Great Lakes Disc, Brian Wolf Frawley. And rounding out the cats this week, he's riding a turtle. We've told you plenty of times. Member of Team DGA Touring professional player, Trevor Harbolt. Thanks for joining us, all 4 of you guys. Let's get rolling. First up, Zac, you're going to be taking on Wes to kick off this week's episode. We've seen 1, 2, 3 elite event winners come off the chase card the past couple of weeks, and then this most recent weekend, we saw Gannon Bird do it at a Silver Series as well. So technically 4 straight events where the winner has come off the chase card. You know, the case for live coverage kind of makes a case for itself. However, I want you guys to dive into the other side of it. What does this mean for the future of post-production moving forward? Can you guys project the next 5 years for us and give us your thoughts? Zac, take it away.
Yeah, so I think for post-production, I think Jomez is kind of leading the way with what they're doing right now, and they're trying to explore a little bit in avenues outside of coverage. So, like, you'll see them do the putting games, you see them doing the Simon Lizotte series, you see them doing a lot of other, like, kind of almost documentary kind of things and, like, extras on top of the coverage. I don't think they found anything yet that's going to eclipse their post-production. I still think that's their big money maker even in like 5 years from now. I still think right now that will still be their big moneymaker, but right now they're really trying to explore on other avenues outside of coverage that they can do to do something that the network can't, Disc Golf Network can't do. So like I said, we're seeing like the putting thing even this last year. We saw them make adjustments to it. It used to be that you had to spell Jomez, now you go to 21. So they're clearly trying to make tweaks and adjustments to see what their audience is interested in outside of those coverages and seeing if they can expand their audience and expand other things outside of their coverage right now.
I like it. Well said, Zac. For your first ever statement on the show, Wes, where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I think what Zac is saying that more or less summarizing, which was going to be my point, is that post coverage is probably going to decline over the next 5 years. We see some of these companies trying to work on other avenues to be a little bit more engaging in other content, bringing people to their channel to watch stuff other than the post-produced coverage. I think that there's still going to be post-production in 5 years, but if you look at all of the other major sports, football, baseball, basketball, there's very few people that are watching, recorded games or, any sort of post-production coverage. Normally you're watching highlight clips, you see what the end score is, and I think as disc golf continues to get more mainstream, get more media, there's going to be more social media posts out there with spoilers. And anytime you got spoilers, watching the coverage is maybe a little bit less exciting. So, I think that the big guys, Jomez, Gatekeeper, those guys will still be around filming post-produced coverage, doing some other stuff on the side. But I think that live coverage is really going to continue to ramp up over the next 5 years.
All right, so clearly you guys both agree post-production is on the decline, especially over the next 5-year period. So let's take your rebuttals in a different direction. You guys both agree they're going to have to explore other avenues to kind of bring in the same revenue that they're making right now. What avenue should they be going down in order to maybe even make more money, but at least sustain themselves going forward? Zach?
Yeah. As a post-produced, owner, I do Crew 42, so I've done those things before, and that question is always kind of around of like, what can we do outside of post-production that will get more people eyes on us to begin with. And so Jomez right now, I think they're in the right direction. Like the practice rounds, I think are really successful. I think that their putting game is probably not the avenue that they should continue doing, or trying to expand on. I don't think it's as popular unless they like shorten it. That might be another avenue they could do as well, is make shorter clips of different activities. So making a 20, maybe a 15-minute video of a putting game, it would be more popular than an hour and 20 minutes of them trying to play to 21. I don't think that's as advantageous. And it might be something we haven't seen yet either. There are a lot of companies are exploring right now on different options, and we'll see what kind of pops up over the next couple of years. And if something really blows up, we'll see Jomez and those big companies really start to take off with it.
All right, Wes, what avenue should these post-production companies be going down here?
Yeah, I think they've already kind of started going down the avenues that they're going to see themselves in the next 5 years by bringing in guys like Nate and Big Germ and some of these characters, because people are coming to these channels more to be entertained by the banter that those guys have. I mean, they're fun guys. It's entertaining to watch. And if you've got to spare 30 minutes or 60 minutes to sit down and watch something, that's what you want, is to watch entertainment. So if they're not watching post-produced coverage, they can go check the side stuff out, but I think that they're doing a really good job by branding and getting some of the more interesting people in disc golf involved, and I think that's the route that they'll continue to go.
All right, so very similar answers both times, even when I kind of tweaked the question for your rebuttals. Zach, you have a small advantage going first here, but the reason I'm going to give Wes the win in this duel is because he brought up the entertainment factor specifically and noted, the Big Germ Yuli combo, the Big Germ Nate combo, that kind of thing. The banter that they bring, that entertainment value is going to be what brings people in. So Wes takes the win here in duel number 1. Duel number 2, Brian and Trevor. We're going to take a look here at the Silver Series from this past weekend, specifically the MPO side, playing at North Cove, the Gorge course. And hole 18 had a lot of controversy and a lot of storylines come out of it, specifically based around the out of bounds. So I want to know your guys' take in general on out of bounds, and what's your preference there, especially in a course situation like we had at North Cove. Brian, take it away.
As a TD, I like the ability to apply for different things that aren't standard. I like that at USA DGC, we have a drop zone on hole 3 at Toboggan for pace of play. So when you go left, when you go right, it speeds up the entire day for everyone, including the volunteers. That being said, I think this weekend was a little bit extreme with the waivers. And I would like to see something happen from those waivers. If the PDGA signs off on something, I would like to see some sort of players group also sign off on something. I would like to see, I don't want to use the word union, but something along that line where players can agree to these, because everything that I'm hearing from my friends, and I'm sure Trevor will about to say the same stuff, is that the stroke and distance and the various rules from hole to hole were very challenging. Some things were out of bounds on one hole that weren't on the other. And that's a really hard look for that staff.
All right, Trevor, what do you got for us?
All right. I played the event, and I don't know it from a TD side. I understand pace of play, and I understand like drop zones and stuff, and keeping it out of like the real rough so you can just grab your disc and take it OB. I get it all. But some of those holes, and I'm not the only person that said this, were the worst holes we've ever played in disc golf tour. Confusing, hard, ridiculous. Like he says, like one hole we were playing a hazard, the next hole we weren't. Some hole, it's like either keep it straightforward and the same the whole way, keep it consistent, or don't do it at all. USDGC is a prime example. It's an XM tier for a reason. It's an X tier because it has to have waivers to do stroke and distance. Now, I don't mind stroke and distance because I'm an accurate thrower off the tee pad. These guys that don't have, like, they have a 500-foot shot, but they still are inaccurate, they go out of bounds, they got to take it way back. It's good for players like me who are smooth and accurate and keep it in bounds, but for players that aren't out of bounds, they don't like it. I'm all for stroke and distance if it's at every single tournament, but it was very confusing this weekend, and it's very hard to deal with when you have a caddy book. You got to read every single hole about every single thing that's on the hole. Stop it or make it all consistent.
All right, I like where you guys went with that, just kind of driving home the confusion aspect of what the struggle really was as a whole at North Cove this weekend. Let's tune in a little bit closer on hole 18 in particular. Did that hole need a drop zone? Was the island, were the island rules in place correct, or should they have been tweaked? Should stroke and distance have been in play there? I want to talk about hole 18 specifically, Brian.
Although I found hole 18 extremely entertaining in somewhat of a negative way this weekend, I don't like seeing 15s and 18s and 19s pop up by pros. It was a giant score separator, so I guess I'll give them the props on that. But to me, I think a drop zone should have been pushed up a little bit closer. Once you're quote unquote gone or out of bounds, getting back to that drop zone is the right thing to do. We have a similar hole in the east side of Michigan where there's a Mando and then a lake and then OB deep and OB right and OB left. And Andrew Sweeten from the PDGA asked us to put in a second drop zone on that for that same reason. So I think that they really missed having a second drop zone on there. Stroke and distance was really tough for them.
All right, Trevor, you were obviously there on the ground. What's your take here?
Easy fix on that hole. Make it a par 5, everybody's happy. I know that sounds stupid, but mentally going into that hole, instead of pushing for the 3 to get the eagle to make that small, tiny island that we have with stroke and distance, if you just change it to a par 5, we have a chance to lay up and get over to the small island that's there. There was no drop zone on that hole, so making a stroke and distance was okay, I guess, but like, it wasn't fair for that hole because of the island being so small. The reason that hole was even there is because it is a beautiful ending hole right next to where everybody can sit there and watch. So I understand why they had the hole, but the easiest fix is to change it to a par 5. Everybody's happy. That's number 1.
All right, Trevor, interesting take there because, you could go both sides of that with the par thing. You can say par is relative, but yeah, on the mental aspect of it, it changes things tremendously if you're playing for birdie versus par versus eagle with the 3 in that case. I like what you both said. You didn't necessarily like, Trevor, you didn't like the stroke and distance up by the island factoring in. Brian, you just said, hey, let's throw a drop zone in there to make things easier. I didn't hear necessarily, I want to hear from both of you guys here quick. Did you think pace of play was an issue on hole 18 at all, Brian?
Yeah, I think the both rounds, even the FPO and the MPO for this event, ran a little bit long.
Okay, Trevor?
No. We had to walk a lot, and walk around the river to get to the island green is what took the time. I don't think pace of play had anything to do with the stroke and distance on that.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to ask that, because that's going to determine my winner here, I think the drop zone, although effective and makes the hole a little bit easier to navigate, it doesn't, coming from Trevor on the ground, it doesn't necessarily speed up pace of play at all, which is part of the reason you would be putting the drop zone in there. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Trevor on this duel, giving Trevor his first win here. Sends us to duel number 3. Trevor, you're going to stay here with Zach. You're going to be up first on this one. We've got a major coming up, our first one of the year, Champions Cup. Who should be running these majors? Should it be the PDGA, the Pro Tour, or some other entity in and of itself? Trevor, what do you got?
I like how I'm on this question. I think another entity should run this. The only reason the PDGA is running is because it's at the IDGC. They have people there. It's part of it. The Pro Tour doesn't run the World Championships or run a major at the moment. They're running the Pro Tour and they're doing their job diligently. I think you bring an outside source in to do majors like this instead of people like the PDGA or the Innova who's running the USDGC. I think you bring somebody else in that can put money into it, put production into it, put everything into it to make it a major, to make it look good, to make it be an actual major. The PDGA just doesn't seem to do everything you need them to do on the course. The course isn't really set up the best. It's all about promoting the PDGA and making people sign up as a member. It's not really about the major, and it's not really about the tournament. And it's not really about the players. So I really feel like they just need better branding, better things to promote it, and if they want to do it. But I think bringing in somebody else in that has money and time and effort to put into it instead of worrying about the PDGA, always worrying about memberships and always worrying about other things instead of the tournaments that they run, I think somebody else should do it.
All right, good take, Trevor. Zach, what do you got for us?
Trevor's absolutely right. I think that PDGA should probably not be the one handling this in this case. I do think the Disc Golf Pro Tour probably can do it. Trevor's point is saying that we should have someone come in that has money, resources, that can put on the proper show that's for the players and for the event. I think that's really a good idea. The question I would have in the current immediate moment is who's going to do that? Do we have someone that has that money, those resources that can do those things? And the answer is I don't think that is the case. I think Disc Golf Pro Tour has done a pretty good job, like Trevor says, doing their due diligence. I think that there's always improvement that can be made. I think Disc Golf Pro Tour has been attempting to do that over the last couple of years, and I think that this would be a good opportunity for them to try to separate themselves and what they can do, take that input from players, and hopefully make something really special. I think the majors should be different as well, right? They should be separate from the the tour at all. They should be the World Championship. Brody talks about it being a longer event, whatever the case may be. It should be unique and special. And I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour right now is probably our best bet until someone with more money would be able to take over for that.
All right, so we've got a little bit of differentiation here. Trevor, he's going with the Pro Tour. You're going with some outside source. Why is it the outside source over the Pro Tour?
Well, the Pro Tour, they're running everything right now, and they're not even doing 100% of the best job, if you ask me personally. I think they're doing a lot more glamour, making everything look good. They're still not doing certain things that help the speed of play or help the game or make the game better for the players and better for the fans. I think you bring somebody else in, and yeah, we don't know who, but we didn't know who the Disc Golf Pro Tour was until they came about and Steve Dodge did everything. So it's going to take somebody that has the want to do it and the desire and has the patience, just like the Pro Tour and the PDGA has had for years. I think that person isn't known right now. But I think it should be another entity. Let the Pro Tour do what they need to do with the tour to take care of that because it's going really well. And let the PDGA take care of the AM side and all the memberships, and let somebody come in and take care of our majors because they really need help being a major, to be honest.
All right, Zach, try and win this duel here. Why is it the Pro Tour over some other entity right now?
Yeah, I just think that they're the ones that have the capability of doing it in the current moment. If ESPN shows up tomorrow and says, "Hey, we want to do this," or another entity does come up and says, "We have lots of money, we really want the player input, we want to do all these things that Trevor's talking about," I think that'd be amazing, and absolutely that we should go with that. But if we don't have them available right now and we still want improvement, I think Disc Golf Pro Tour in the current moment is the direction you would go. That's just where I would see in the current moment. And Trevor's right. If something comes up next year, 2 years from now, whatever, and it's a better option than the Pro Tour, then you should go that direction. But in the current moment, I think that's the direction that we have that would be an immediate improvement, maybe something down the line that we could improve it further past that.
I love both your points. I think the reason I'm going to give the win to one of you here is for the sanctity of the question itself, which is who should be running the majors. And yeah, right now I think I agree with Zach. If it came down to right now, who's the better decision, Pro Tour, PDGA, or somebody else, it's probably the Pro Tour who's best equipped to do it. But the overall question is who should be running these, and I think we can look futuristic on that. And I think for that reason, Trevor's nailed it and given plenty of good points to back it up. So Trevor takes the win here in that duel, sends us to the next one, Brian and Wes. Wes, you're going to be up first. Should flex start tournaments, should leagues, should they be sanctioned at all? And then, if yes, what level should they be compared to, actual 2-3 round tournaments? Wes, take it away.
Yeah, I feel like Brian's probably run a lot more flex starts than me, so if he didn't write this question, then bad luck on my part getting it. Yeah, I think flex starts and leagues should be treated similar to like a C tier. I think a lot of people that are playing these flex starts and leagues, are probably two separate groups for that. For flex starts, people are looking to just get some course experience. I think of like Ledgestone, where you can go and play the courses beforehand at flex starts. Brian does a good job at pro states. I'm not sure if you guys are still running flex starts, but used to have some flex starts up there, and it's just a good way to kind of get some tournament experience on the course that you're about to play for a bigger tournament. I think leagues are a really good way for people to just get involved and get a rating. There's probably so many people that are out there playing leagues but aren't playing tournaments, and so I think having sanctioned leagues is a really good opportunity for that new player to come in, get a rating, see where they kind of stack up, but also just get some of that experience, like playing under pressure where every single stroke matters out there like a tournament, and just getting some of that experience under their belt is going to make them a better tournament player when the time comes.
All right, so yes says Wes to the sanctioning. Brian, where are you going with this one?
All right, this is like 5 things in a row where everybody agrees, but I'm going to agree better. So I'm going to win this by proving more reasons why, yes. So yes, sanction rounds, we need them. We like the PDGA. We're pro PDGA, at least this guy is. So we need events for those people to get out and get points and get a rating and things like that. Flex starts are really ideal. You can literally run them year round. You can do evening ones, day ones, overnight ones in the right situation. Great, that's wonderful. But the leagues are so important, especially to a state like Michigan, the great disc golf state. We have right now 35 leagues scheduled between now and the end of September across our state, averaging from like the smaller ones like 15 to other ones with well over 100. These are really important to those people that work in non-traditional schedule like myself. It allows me to hop out there and maybe get a league round or two in and get another rated round, which is nice to stay fresh between my, 4 months between tournaments that I usually play. I think it's really important from the PDGA standpoint, too. I'd love to see more support for these things because that is more money headed to them. And this is like the gateway drug of tournaments. Come out, have a league, have some fun. Next thing you know, you're signed up for an A tier. It's so important that we continue to improve leagues, flex starts, C tiers. Yes, sanctioning is important.
All right, so you both say yes, obviously. How important it is for the growth and getting new people into the sport. Yes. Everything's good there. Let's attack the next part of this question, though. How should those Flex Start League rated rounds be compared and weighted in regards to if we're looking at, A tier, B tier, and even on beyond that?
Yeah, I think kind of an important part to these. A lot of people for these league rounds especially play with their friends, which I don't necessarily agree with. I assume that everybody out there is keeping an accurate score, but in a tournament you're carded up with random people. So I think the management side, if we're going to continue pushing leagues and flex starts, there needs to kind of be a little bit more accountability or a little bit more randomness in the group so that you're not just playing with your 3 buddies going out and you're still going to go have a good time, but you're getting that experience for the tournament or getting a rating. I think that there still needs to be some sanctity to those kind of random cards and the people that you play with. As far as how they should be treated, as I just said, I think they should be treated similar to a tournament round where you have these random cards just to really give you a real experience, just like you would in a tournament. They're both sanctioned rounds, and they should be treated pretty similarly.
All right, Brian.
All right, so you got a B tier. A B tier, whatever rating you get, is your rating. All right, a C tier, you get half of that. A league, you get a tenth of that. An A tier, you get twice of that rating. And a Disc Golf Pro Tour or a major, you get 5 times, something like that. I'm not smart, but there needs to be a variation between the lowest league and what that rated round with your homies is versus Trevor breathing down your neck from Chase Card in an A tier. That is a big difference in my opinion, so we should value those things a little bit higher, but I do believe that sanctioning events and leagues is still really important.
All right, well said from both of you. I don't disagree with anything you guys said. The winner of this duel, though, is going to be Brian because he gave a solution and kind of an example of what we need to see. Maybe it's not exactly what needs to happen, but I like that you gave us something to look for. You know, a tiered rating system almost, you know, where the A tiers, the majors are weighted much higher above a C tier or a flex start or a league is. So Brian takes the win in that duel, sends us to the next one. Brian is taking on Zac. Brian, you're going to be up first. We're going to stay on the topic of ratings. We're just going to go with the assumption here that something screwed up with the ratings. It's confusing at baseline. So what's your solution? And then second part of that question, how does your solution impact the structure on the Pro Tour for touring players, for example, like Trevor? Brian, take it away.
So I could go on for days for this question. So we're going to talk just about the mixed amateur division, meaning MPO and MA and AM Masters and things that of that nature. I would like to propose our new 8 divisions. Yes, you heard that right, 8 divisions. Division 1, Disc Golf Pro Tour. Division 2, Pro. Division 3, Semi-Pro. And then 5 varying AM divisions below there. Your top 200 players in this new rating system are on the Disc Golf Pro Tour and can play in MPO. At the end of the year, the bottom 30, see ya, deuces. You drop down, like relegation, you've heard that here before, into the Pro. Now, what's Pro? Pro is like our AAA, if you will, to compare it to baseball. If we put on 15 big events on the pro level throughout the year, those winners of those 15 events pop up into Disc Golf Pro Tour. And then, on top of that, maybe the top 15 or so rated players pop up. And that's going to go down and go on. Below pro, semi-pro, that's just our weekend warriors that like to go out there and crush an A tier, take some money, and go home. Now, those players that are in semi-pro cannot play in Disc Golf Pro Tour or Majors or Silver Series. That is reserved for the top 2 levels. Same thing, we go down to AMs. AMs are just people that like to play like me. I'm not that good. I am competitive, but I like to play. I like to play 10 or so sanctioned events a year. So where does that rank me? I want to know who plays like me and near me and what division I'm in. Those 5 AM divisions would have the same sort of percentile movement where players would go up and down at the end of the year based on relegation. And you're worried that too many people would be moving up. Don't, because you have retirees, you have injuries, you have people that age out or people that just leave the sport. There's actually a great mathematics here that we could solve this problem pretty easily. But then how would we do the rating system inside of those divisions? Well, we go over to our StatMando official ratings. We pay them a ton of money to put every professional disc golf PDGA member into that, and then we can set up a new guidelines based on this. I think I'm close to a minute, so I'm going to stop, but come see my TED Talk about this some point.
I love it. Zac, you've got the floor.
Wow, that was a lot of information, Brian. A lot of good information. For the ratings themselves, I think that we have an opportunity here with PDGA Live to kind of change the way we see it moving forward. Personally, for me, just the ratings themselves, I would like to see it more on an individual hole basis rather than a complete round basis, especially with that evidence. Just looking at like the tournament that we just saw. That tournament specifically is looking at players who played earlier in that day, but didn't play as much rain, while players in the afternoon played with more rain. Those conditions are evaluating to one another the same way. And so I think that with the PDGA Live, where you can evaluate on a hole-by-hole basis more consistently, would be an interesting adjustment to that rating system. Brian's got a whole structure going on here, talking about relegating positions and moving players up, and I think that's really an interesting and actually kind of a good idea as well. But as for ratings themselves, I'd like to see it more differentiated down to a hole-by-hole basis where we can put in more data, like weather checks, as well as other performances that we can, over time, hopefully get to a closer true rating of courses either in the local area, the true rating on that course would be, or even on the Pro Tour level, seeing what those look like compared to other pros. And I think that would be a better fit for ratings right now.
Okay. Brian, respond to Zac's comments. Drive home on yours if you can. Go for it.
So although Zac brings up some great points, I think it's too micro. It's too small. You have to think of more things, and that's why I hammer home the Statmando official rankings. You're looking at a 2-year basis. You're looking at a strength of schedule. You're looking at a tier challenge as well. So you're going to have a little bit higher ratings in different tiers. You're going to bring in those C tiers and those leagues like we just talked about, and you're going to get a larger spool of data to create this new ranking inside your tiny division, in which there's 8 divisions, in which we then take over the world. Thank you.
Zach, what do you got?
Man, it's hard to argue with taking over the world. I do understand your point of saying it's too small. I do think, though, that if we're going to collect data and we're looking at individual hold bases, especially when we're looking into conditions like weather, so wind, precipitation, and those things, I think that's valuable data that we can collect over time. And while the rating system doesn't necessarily need to change immediately, I think if we collect that data now over time, eventually we're going to be able to start creating more accurate data about ratings, about courses, especially if they have historical performances there. So, like at CCR Open, shout out to Wes here. If you have CCR and you have holes that have consistently been performed at that hasn't changed over years, you're going to get more and more accurate representations of what it's like to shoot well on that hole and then over the course, rather than having to like a basis based on who's shooting well that day, especially if conditions vary from the beginning of the day at the end of the day. So that's how I would interpret that.
All right, I like where both of you guys went, and you went slightly different directions with it. Brian, I love the whole spiel. I love where you went. Zach, you kind of hit more on individual hold data. Weather plays a big factor in what you're, proposing here. I am going to ding Brian for going well over his minute. And that's kind of going to be the deciding factor in a way, but I do think Zach answered the question a little bit more direct as well. Brian, you answered the question for sure, but you gave a whole relegation system as well in addition, which is not a bad thing. I think it's a great idea. But Zach's going to take the win here in this duel, which sends us to our final duel, Wes and Trevor. Wes, you're the only one standing in Trevor's way of a clean sweep here. So let's see where you go with this one. You're going to have the floor. You're going to be up first. What is the worst weather condition to play in this sport? Wes, take it away.
I'm so happy I get to go first on this one because in my mind there's really only one answer. And although different regions might say different things, Trevor being a southern boy, he might be a little bit afraid of the cold at times, but the right answer here is wind. And the reason the answer is wind is because it is the most brutal among them, where you do not have control over exactly what your disc is doing. You can prepare for rain, you can bring more towels, you can carry a whale sack, you can treat your grip on the disc, you can prepare for snow, you can prepare for hot, you can prepare for cold, but there is nothing that you can do against a driving headwind because you don't know if your disc is going to rise up, is your disc going to tip over, is it going to hold its stability and just carry the line. The wind is absolutely brutal, and it is the one factor that you cannot prepare for every single throw.
All right, Trevor's already shaking his head. What do you got, Trevor?
All right, first of all, I'm going to go 2 questions back and say, Brian, as my sponsor, I feel that it was very, very, very upsetting that you would put me on the chase card instead of the lead card breathing down people's neck. But anyways, we're going to go with snow because Wes is wrong. I can prepare for headwinds. I can throw further in tailwinds. I know how the disc moves in a crosswind or a left or right. I do not know how my hands are going to take the snow. I do not know what the cold and snow and all that is going to be like. Of course, I'm from the South. I don't like the snow. I know a lot of people don't like the extreme heat, but I would much rather play in wind, heat, rain, anything over snow, and I am the perfect person. I've never dropped out of a tournament in 300 events until a month ago in Michigan when it was a blizzard and I could not feel my hands or my feet and I dropped out. So my experience, it's snow, hands down, never want to play in that crap again. Done. You're wrong, Wes. You're wrong.
All right, so you went 2 different directions. I love it. Finally in this episode, we've got some true differentiation. Wes, double down on wind and tell us why wind is worse specifically than snow.
Yeah, Trevor mentioned the tournament that he played in. There was other people that finished that tournament because they were prepared for the snow. The Michiganders up here are some savages on the disc golf course, and we know how to prepare for those kind of crazy conditions. But again, the wind, there's just nothing that you can do. I've watched hundreds of rounds of coverage in disc golf. I might not have played 300 tournaments, but I've probably watched that many. And the wind is absolutely the one biggest killer against players of all levels. You see the guys on coverage, they'll throw the shot that, comes out of their hand perfect. It's exactly what they wanted to do. And then the wind raises it up. It flips it over. It does all this crazy stuff, and you just see them throw their hands up like, what can I do? There's nothing. And that's the answer. The wind is the worst because there's nothing that you can really do about it.
Trevor?
I can do all kinds of stuff about the wind, man. I can go faster speeded disc that's more overstable to handle the headwinds. I can go a little flippier to handle the tailwinds. What I can't handle is being in Michigan when it's snowing. All four of you guys are all from Michigan, right? Like, you guys deal with it. You know that all your people can deal with it. We can't deal with it. Like, you guys don't get the wind like we do everywhere else. I mean, yeah, there's wind off the Lake Michigan and everything, but we don't get that cold. We don't get that snow, and it's wet, and it's terrible. It's blinding in your face. You can't see to throw the disc. It's terrible. It's the worst. I would much rather play in a rainstorm with lightning than play in a snowstorm.
All right, so we heard Trevor's preference. He hates the snow. Trevor, I don't disagree with you. I might be from Michigan like the other three here, but I hate the snow as well, so I agree with you there. Wes, I think the point that gives you the edge here is the fact that you brought in other pros on tour, and especially what we can see on coverage. Trevor might be able to handle the wind, but it's clear that several of them cannot, and the unpredictability factor is the key here. The snow is predictably cold, predictably awful in my opinion and Trevor's opinion, but it is predictable. The wind is not. So Wes is going to take the win here in the final duel, which sends us to a tiebreaker. Trevor and Wes, you're back again. Trevor, you're going to be up first this time. Tiebreaker question for this week is the top 3 worst disc golf mold names. What do you got, Trevor?
Popcorn. What a dumb name. 10-meter brick. What a dumb name. And any disc that has a number in it. Dumb name. I'm done.
That
was quick and easy. Wes?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting increasingly harder to come up with like good disc golf names, but there are over 1 million words in the English language that people can use, and you can combine 2 words. Imagine that. You can combine 2 words to make a disc name. So I'm going to start with any disc name that is just a stock disc name. You can pull up the approved disc right now, and I'm looking at it. Hobby Sport Driver. Awful. Come up with something at least a little bit creative. Going down this list, again, it's getting harder to create names, so I think we're seeing more bad names come out recently as opposed to in the past. Deranged Squirrel. How does that relate to disc golf in any way at all? I don't understand. And then what was my third one on here? Creature. Give me a creature. There's thousands of creatures. Creature is just too boring, too generic. Give me something a little more creative.
All right, Trevor, why is your list better than Wes's?
First of all, the number system is not a word, so that beats all your words that you wanted. Deranged Squirrel sounds really fun, and Creature sounds kind of cool. 10-meter brick? Who wants to putt with a brick? That's ridiculous. And Popcorn has nothing to do with frisbee golf or disc golf or anything at all, and it's just a dumb disc. I don't know. That's where I'm going with. This was a fun question because I could not think of anything dumber than Popcorn. So.
All right, Wes. Defend your 3.
Yeah. I mean, the generic name thing, again, 1 million words in the English language that you can come up with something creative and interesting to the consumer. Hobby Sport Driver is not creative. It doesn't make me want to throw it or buy it. And the other names don't really make me want to even, check out that disc unless they got some crazy cool graphics, I guess. But, I mean, there's so many different good options to draw in consumers and get people to buy discs. And it just, like these 3 names just, I don't want to buy those discs.
All right, so you guys went 3 different names, which is good. I kind of was hoping that one of you guys would, or both of you guys would hit one on the head and agree on one. That would have been fun, but there's so many bad names. I wanted to see where you guys went with this, and you went different directions, so that's good. Trevor, Popcorn, yeah, weird name. A brick. Why are we throwing a brick on the disc golf course? That's not helpful. Totally agree with you there. And the number thing is 100% true. It's boring and about as uncreative as you can get, but I am going to ding you for that answer because that was not just one specific disc. For that reason, Wes is going to win this duel. Congratulations, Wes. You've got the stage. What do you got for the people?
Yeah, hey, good debate, Trevor. That was a fun question. Super exciting week with the first major of the year coming up. We have so many storylines. We had Dickerson and a really exciting finish last year with Paige Pierce taking home the win. A lot of mixed emotions with that one, but I think the really cool thing was that this major does bring about more of those emotions. It definitely means more, whether just because it's called a major and they try and do a little bit more. Obviously, I do think that there is more that they could do around these majors to make them more important and make them feel more important. But, it's really exciting to have a major at the beginning of the year to kind of have some of those emotions and just start building some of those storylines. It's a great opportunity for some of these up and coming players to make a name for themselves, to get on the live coverage, lead card, chase card, and really get some important face time at the beginning of the year here to excel their career throughout the rest of the year. But I think this tournament is especially important for one person, and that person is Paul Macbeth. He's had a really tough beginning of the year here, but he tends to rise for the majors, so I'm really excited to see what he does this week. And I'm really excited to see if Paige Pierce can bring her level up. I know that you talked a little bit about kind of her struggles a little bit this year. We've seen Kristen Tatar play absolutely phenomenal this year, just like she did last year. But again, I think these majors really bring out the best in these players that have so many of them like Paige and Paul. So I'm really excited to see what those guys can do this weekend. I'm going to throw out a hot take, and I'm going to say that Paul wins this one. And I think in a really tight battle, Kristen picks up a win this weekend.
All right, good stuff, Wes. Hyping up the Champions Cup this coming weekend. Go watch it. If you're at home, watch it. Stay tuned. Apparently, Paul Macbeth and Kristen Tatar already won, though, so Wes may have spoiled it for you. But tune in regardless. So, all of you guys at home, thanks so much for watching. Congratulations, Wes, on the win in this episode. Thank you so much, Trevor. You battled them hard. Brian and Zach, for your first ever appearance. You did fantastic. Thanks to all four of you for being here. You guys at home, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so right now. We appreciate your support. Other than that, have a great weekend and enjoy the Champions Cup. We'll see you next week.